What kind of package design has the ability to double your sales? What are some success stories of companies that exploded their sales because of their amazing package design? That's exactly what I'll be covering today in part one of this special solo episode of the Marketing Podcast Party. Let's get started right away. And today's teachings come from a masterclass that I put together for my students inside of one of my courses called Captivate. Let's dive right in to the first story. And to start off this masterclass, I want to share with you one of the coolest business success stories of all time. So this is Mike Cesario, and he is the co-founder and CEO of what has quickly become a very popular brand. And during the story, let's see if you can guess. Let's see if you can guess what brand he launched relatively recently in 2017. But it's a brand now that today is worth $700 million. That's the current valuation as of 2023, a $700 million company. So here's a little bit about Mike's story and what led him to his wild success story. So during Mike's years in school, he started to build a passion for design and advertising and music. And he also started to become passionate about his health, so much so that he eventually gave up drinking soda and he became a vegan. And a few years ago, he was hanging out backstage with some of his band member friends at the Warped Tour Music Festival. And he noticed that they were drinking this. All right. This is Monster Tour water. And it took me some effort, and I had to overpay to get it. But I have my own can of Monster Tour water as well right here. Okay. So Monster Tour water. There we go. Woo. And my can is actually from 2010. Yeah. I don't know if you can see there, but 2010, maybe you can see that. 2010, mine's from the 2010 Warped Tour, and I was able to buy it off of eBay as a kind of like a collector's item. But inside the can is just water. Okay, it looks like Monster, but it's actually just water. And this is not ever sold to the public. So if you can get your hands on one, it does become today a special collector's item. So they weren't sold to the public because instead these cans of water were provided to band members so that they could hydrate themselves with the visibility of the Monster logo with the cans on stage. And these cans were also occasionally passed out to Warped Tour Festival goers because in the middle of summer during the Warped Tour Music Festival in 90 degrees plus weather, everyone needs to stay hydrated to stay safe. And the easiest way to do that is with water instead of an energy drink, right? So backstage at the Warped Tour, Mike, he saw multiple band members only drinking this Monster Tour water because, as you may imagine, lots of band members work hard to keep up their health, stay in shape, and they wouldn't normally drink actual Monster energy drinks as a way to stay hydrated because many of those band members live generally more healthy lifestyles. And so the Monster Tour water got Mike Cesario while he was backstage hanging out. It got him thinking about how much advertising comes from brands like Monster and Red Bull and others to make energy drink brands look very cool and hip and attractive. But he also thought about the irony of how many of the people who have actual Monster and Red Bull sponsorships, including band members and bands and athletes, and athletes that participate in extreme sports, etc. He was thinking about the irony of their sponsorship, recognizing that many of them don't really consume those energy drinks with a lot of frequency because they know it's not the best for them and they have to keep themselves in top shape, right? So Mike thought, why not make a brand that advertises itself as cool and extreme, but do it for something healthy or healthier, much healthier, like do it for something like water. So Mike went to work, and on an extremely small budget, he did a test. He paid a designer to create the coolest looking design of a 3D image of canned water as possible inside of Photoshop. And on top of that, he invested $1,500 to create a marketing video that showed off the 3D model of the can of water. And he launched that video on social media, and it got some incredible results. So here's the video that he and his team launched. And after showing you the video, we'll talk about the results. Here we go.
Hi, I'm a professional actor, and I'm getting paid to tell you about a revolutionary new product.
Liquid Death Mountain Water.
For years, a bunch of marketing fuckboys have tricked you into thinking that water is just some girly drink for yoga moms. Just look at all the cute brand names and dainty little bottles. Well, hold on to your hot dogs, because I got news. Water isn't cute. Water is deadly. It kills innocent surfers and snowboarders and kayakers. Every year, water is responsible for thousands and thousands of deaths. Energy drinks only kill, like, what, 1 or 2 kids? So please, don't fall for the marketing bullshit. Water is not yoga. Water is liquid death. And that's why this brand needs to exist, to finally give water the ice-cold can and ice-cold name it deserves. A brand that parents will hate, but kids might love.
Liquid Death Mountain Water.
Made from the deadliest stuff on earth. Please, enjoy responsibly.
And that is what we call marketing history. Incredible, right? So that video, that first video, promoted on Facebook. And since the video got so many reactions, Mike and his team then spent a few $1,000s to promote the video. And they got a total of 3 million views on that first video with their first initial promotion. And along with those 3 million views, they got a lot of followers to start following their Facebook page. So much so, in fact, that after just 4 months, they had more followers on their Facebook page than the water brand Aquafina. And Aquafina, to give you some context, has been around since 1994. Plus, there's more. During the promotion of that first video, Mike got a bunch of 7-Eleven franchise owners contacting him and asking him how they could buy Liquid Death to start carrying it in their stores because they thought it would sell really well to their demographic. So Mike got all of this attention, and this was before he officially launched the water brand, because all of that initial promotion was just Mike's minimum viable product, his MVP, all to see if people actually had a desire for his new idea for a water brand. And since the answer was yes, that's when he figured out where he would get the water sourced from and how he would get it all manufactured and distributed. So this is the end result, right? This is Liquid Death Mountain Water, drinking water from the Alps. Okay. And it comes in an aluminum can and with the tagline, "Murder Your Thirst." And since 2017, with their initial marketing test and with that first successful ad, Liquid Death has launched many other ads that went viral, including this Super Bowl ad that I'm going to show you that people absolutely loved from the 2022 Super Bowl. Here we go.
Breaking the law, 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 breaking the law.
Hashtag death plastic. I was thinking about, man, if I was a kid, I would have had so much fun participating in that commercial. That just looked like an absolute blast, pure entertainment, right? Such a good ad, such a good Super Bowl ad. So as you can see, Liquid Death, through its advertising, has been able to quickly and effectively generate a lot of eyeballs and make a lot of noise. And it's also been able to generate a lot of sales. For example, Liquid Death is now one of the top water brands sold at Whole Foods. And how did all of this happen? Because Mike Cesario launched Liquid Death with a goal that when people saw Liquid Death online initially, that they would have to stop and pay attention. And then on the shelves, Mike's goal with the packaging was so that when people saw it, they had to pick it up and they had to take a picture of it and possibly share that picture with friends or on social media. And because Mike succeeded with his goal, he successfully launched a new water brand in one of the world's most competitive markets. And that brand is now worth $700 million. And Liquid Death was, as you can see here, mainly built on the attention people give to the brand, the marketing, and the incredible product packaging. All right. So this story shows us just how powerful it can be in your business and for your advertising when you get your product packaging right. And during part 1 of this masterclass, you'll first discover the strategies behind creating amazing product packaging that deliver incredible results. And if you sell services, I've got you covered. I will also talk about multiple strategies for how this applies to you. And I will share multiple examples of businesses that don't sell physical products as well, outside of services, that also have great product packaging that help them see higher conversion rates. And you'll see how that product packaging for the non-tangible product businesses could do things and do things, because the concepts and what you should pay attention to when it comes to your product packaging are very similar amongst product-based businesses versus service-based businesses versus everything you would consider outside of a product or a service as well. Maybe you sell an info product or information, or you sell an experience, whatever it is. The examples of everything you see will show you how all of these strategies apply. So, quick example of how you would see this. For example, if you're a lawyer, you would want to pay attention to all of the things you could do with design, the design of your website, the design of your logos, the layout of your office, how you name your services, what images you use to represent your services, the layout of your website, how people experience your customer service, how they experience you, how they experience your brand on social media, etc. All of that. And you'll want to think about all of those visuals and all of those interactions that you could be improving to help better sell your law office's services. And all of that I explained there, even though there's nothing tangible through that service, all of that design that goes into everything that happens in all those places, that would be considered the product packaging for that law office. So there's no excuses. If what you sell isn't an actual physical product, there are tons of ways you can still create great product packaging, quote unquote, to represent what you sell if you sell anything outside of something tangible, physical product. So if you sell services, this masterclass or anything else, this is still for you in a big way. And so here in part 1, you're going to learn the strategies. And then in part 2 of the masterclass, I will show you tons of great examples of product packaging successes. And that will include a number of before and after pictures for businesses that fix their product packaging. And as a result, they were able to see massive increases in their sales. And with a lot of the examples, I'm able to show you exact numbers. I actually was able to dig up exact numbers for you of just how much they were able to increase their sales when they made the right improvements to their product packaging. So that's exciting. And you'll see examples of businesses that saw sales increases everywhere from 40% all the way up to 300% or more. And so I hope you're excited. This is great stuff. Very few people talk about this. So let's jump right in with the first section where we'll talk about your winning strategies. And the first thing we have to talk about is something called the FMOT. So the FMOT, that's fun. That's a fun thing to say. FMOT. What is the FMOT? The FMOT is an acronym that stands for the first moment of truth. And the first moment of truth is a very important marketing concept that was coined by P&G, Procter & Gamble, in 2005, and it was based off of company research. P&G says that the FMOT is what happens during the first 3 to 7 seconds after a shopper first encounters a product on a store shelf, okay? First 3 to 7 seconds after a shopper first encounters a product on a store shelf, because it is in those precious few seconds that we have the best chance of converting a potential dream customer into an actual buyer by appealing to 3 important areas. Our dream customers' senses, so their sight, their touch, their taste, their feel, etc. Also their values and their emotions. In other words, P&G from their research believes that much of what happens after the first 7 seconds doesn't matter nearly as much, because the strongest indicators from their research of if you are going to make that sale happen based off of the interaction within that first 3 to 7 seconds with your product or service. So that's the FMOT. That's the meaning, at least. That's the first moment of truth. Let's talk about it a little bit more with some great examples. Here's one of my favorite FMOT examples, RX bars. So in 2013, it was in a basement in Chicago where 2 friends were frustrated because they were trying to find a healthy protein bar with natural ingredients. They couldn't find it. They searched long and hard, and they couldn't find one. So they said, this doesn't make sense. Maybe there's a market for this. We really want one. So they invested $10,000 of their own money to create RX bars. RX bars were born, and they started to sell those new RX bars mainly inside of CrossFit gyms around where they lived. But their sales really started to take off when they changed their product packaging, okay? So as you can see in this picture, this is probably the product packaging for RX bars that you're familiar with. But as you can see here, with what eventually became their winning product packaging that helped them really explode, is that RX advertises their simple ingredients, RX bars advertises their simpler ingredients right on the package. And by doing so, they provide their dream customers with an amazing example of an FMOT, an amazing example of the first moment of truth. So the packaging pops visually on the shelves, and it makes it impossible, for the most part, impossible not to see the benefits. So for example, on the first bar, that we see here in the picture in black, we see that it says RX bar, 12 grams protein bar. And then well, that's like a, yeah, the one in black, and that's like a, shows the logo RX bar, 12-gram protein bar, and that's kind of like in a gold font. And then in white bold font that you can't miss, big and bold, it says 3 egg whites, 6 almonds, 4 cashews, 2 dates, no BS. So just exactly how successful has RX bars become thanks to their amazing product packaging and amazing product that people wanted? Well, that initial $10,000 investment paid off in a big way, because in 2017, those 2 friends who started their company in a basement in Chicago were able to sell their company to Kellogg for $600 million, all because they were able to fill a huge void in the market by creating a protein bar with simple ingredients that everyone can understand. And because they focused on quality and created a great first moment of truth through the product packaging, that they were able to have massive success. So just like with Liquid Death, who also provided that initial amazing first moment of truth with their first online ad, now you have this second incredible example of the FMOT in action that led to the quick and massive success of a company, rapid growth. So yeah, if you've seen some of my other trainings, Chobani, same thing. Chobani, massive success out of the gates, and it was based off of product packaging. So a lot of times when you get the product packaging right, it's immediate, and people are attracted to it, and people want the product, and that's why this is so powerful. So now the question is, what areas of your product packaging could you focus on that appeal to these 3 main areas during the first moment of truth? Your customers' senses, their values, and their emotions. Okay. The answer to that question is hard. There is no one-size-fits-all answer, because to achieve the highest converting first moment of truth, you'll first want to understand all of the possible goals that you could focus on for your product packaging. And then you'll want to do some tests. Sometimes you just have to test and see what the market responds to. But the great news is that today it's easier than ever before to do testing with your product packaging, because like you saw with Liquid Death, they tested their concept for their amazing product packaging before they even launched their product, because the only actual can of Liquid Death that they featured in their first online video, if you go back and you watch that video I showed you, that first online video, the only actual can image that you saw of actual Liquid Death was the 3D visual mock-up of the can created inside Photoshop. So when you saw the woman actually pouring the can, what was a can, quote unquote, of Liquid Death, that wasn't an actual can of Liquid Death. Okay, they never showed that that was a Liquid Death can. It was just a can and water was pouring out of it. So there was only the 3D visual mock-up inside of that ad, and they were able to use it as an MVP, minimum viable product. And you can do the same type of quick testing for your online ads as well. And this type of quick testing changes everything, because it goes from you needing to invest sometimes upwards of $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 to have like a new production run of one of your products with a new product packaging, instead of investing all that. And with some companies, I mean, when The big companies make changes. We're talking about millions of dollars. But today, you can do these tests much more quickly, and you can run and split test online ads that show visual mock-ups of product packaging created very well done, where it looks realistic inside of programs like Photoshop. And you can quickly test and see what lands with people before you actually put something out into the market. You can also do that with your landing pages, with your websites, with other visual representations of product packaging. You can do all of that without first needing to actually produce the new product packaging. And in fact, that is what I did with my book cover for Ideas That Influence, that so many people love. I get a lot of feedback about the book cover for Ideas That Influence. What people don't know is that I went through tons of other design options with feedback from over 100. I individually talking to over 100 potential customers, showing them design mock-ups, and it happened in phases. When I got close to this end product, I had another version that was very similar. And then I split tested that even more with them and figured out that this was the overall winner that people love, that really caught people's attention, which got people to stop and say, hey, that looks interesting. What is that all about? All right. So same process was used for Ideas That Influence, for my great design that people love, that people tell me they love so much. And so visual mock-ups is the way to go. It's easier than ever before. And if you want more advanced approaches as well, I'll go ahead and mention this. Today, there are companies that they'll take all your design mock-ups, and they actually use a mix of AI and customer feedback to help you test. And you can run those tests with different mock-ups as well for your product packaging and receive actual data that shows you which tweaks could give you the overall highest conversion rates with tests. So there's options out there. And of course, as a reminder, all of this type of testing can also be done if you only sell services. So everything you are about to learn about your goals for your first moment of truth, your FMOT, and your product packaging, it applies to all businesses. All right. So now let's jump into the different areas you could tweak and focus on inside of your product packaging. Areas that will best appeal to your dream customer senses, their values, and their emotions, so that you too can create an amazing first moment of truth, where within those first 3 to 7 seconds, you get the most people without even realizing it. Within those first 3 to 7 seconds, you get a lot of those people deciding that they're going to buy your product or service. All right. So you're going to see a list of around 20 different possible goals for your product packaging, but it's important to remember here that you definitely should not be trying to implement all of these goals. You should instead focus on just a handful of these goals, because if you tried to do it all, it's not viable. Your product packaging would be too confusing, cluttered, and ineffective. So it's pretty much impossible to try to incorporate all of these goals. And each one of these possible goals, they are designed to help you either appeal to your dream customer senses, their values, and or their emotions. So each one is a possibility for your goals, and you will at the end decide which goals are most important for you, so that you can then go and design a great first moment of truth. So your first possible goal with your product packaging is to delight your customers. And a perfect example of this is all of the time and the money and the effort that goes into just the product packaging for Apple products. So what you have here is some of the most recent packaging for the newest version of the iPhone. And each time I buy a new iPhone, I'm reminded of the delight behind the unboxing experience. And I'm actually like just saying that, I'm like remembering with my newest iPhone that like they have like this tab that you rip off now. It just like feels good. Anyway, so if you've ever opened um the box to a new iPhone, you know what I'm talking about. It's delightful to open, or any almost any Apple product, because specifically with iPhone, first of all, the box cover, it fits so like perfectly. It fits so perfectly that when you go to open the box for the first time, it takes a couple of seconds as you are slowly separating the top of the box from the inside of the box. And this is actually 100% by design, so that you have a couple of seconds of anticipation as you open the box and your new device is finally revealed. And Apple's product packaging is so well designed and such a delightful experience to open that maybe you've decided to keep a lot of the product packaging for your Apple products over the years. A lot of people do this, in fact, and I've heard more than one person say that they feel bad every time they throw away the product packaging for their new Apple devices, because the product packaging is so nice that they feel like that they should keep it. And guess what? If you do keep it, there is actual value behind Apple's old product packaging. For example, check out these eBay listings. All right. Here, first of all, you see people are selling with a high amount of frequency, apparently, because it says 3,000, what does it say? 3,433 sold, items sold here. But here on eBay, they are selling for $11 each, replacement empty boxes for the iPhone 7, iPhone 8, and iPhone X. And if you have a really old box, this is just in this specific listing. So $11 each. I didn't look up how much the newest boxes go for, like an iPhone 14. But anyway, if you have a really old box or a collector's item box for Apple products, then check out this listing I found on eBay. So what you see here is that for $500, you can own your very own empty box for the Beatles promo box of the Apple iPhone 2G. That's right. That's right. For $500, you get your own empty box, and incredible. You get your own empty Beatles promo box. So that's the value, as you can see here, of product packaging that delights your dream customers. Because sometimes when you do such a great job of creating unique and experiential product packaging, it can turn into even a collector's item. So that's the first of your possible goals for your product packaging that can help you achieve an amazing first moment of truth, the possible goal of creating product packaging that delights your customers. Your second possible goal for your product packaging, as you can see here with these boots, these black rubber boots, it's to create intrigue. And this product is called, specifically, the product is called Fisherman Rubber Boots from the Good company, that's good with an exclamation mark, from Kazakhstan. And this product packaging actually received an award called a Pint Award. It actually received the Platinum Pint Award for its amazing design and effectiveness, because black rubber boots are a commodity. So generally speaking, if you are in the market for rubber boots and you search online for rubber boots, you'll see tons and tons of rubber boots that all pretty much look the same. And in fact, in preparation for this example, I did a little search myself, and most black rubber boots all looked about the same, and the average costs were in the $30 to $60 range. So everything here with black rubber boots, it screams commodity. But what the good company has done here is they've taken their commodity black rubber boots and they created intrigue through the product packaging. And so as you can see here, the eels you see on the box snaking around the boots instantly captivate people's attention. And to complement the visual, you see that on the top of the boots, the top are poking out of the box so that it looks like the boots through the product packaging are actually standing inside of the water. So the box portion makes it look like the boots are in water, and then the top of the boots are poking out of the top of the water. So overall, we have stunning visuals here that represent the product and instantly captivate and intrigue the customers. And all of this is done to sell an everyday commodity product, black boots. So this intrigue factor, what it does during the first moment of truth for the good company is it gives them a huge upper hand against the rest of the competition because everybody else just has normal black boots, right? So it gets people to stop and look at the packaging and read about what makes these specific black rubber boots different from all the rest of the black rubber boots that are in just normal, probably normal everyday shoe boxes, right? And it's a perfect example of winning the first moment of truth amongst your competition because this packaging would win the FMOT any day amongst other commodity black boots for either online e-commerce sales or in-store sales. So instantly online or in the store, you are checking out these black boots first. For goal number 3, we have the Post brand cereal called Shreddies. But more specifically, for this example, we have the famous marketing campaign and product packaging that Post produced to create desire for a special version of the cereal that they created called Diamond Shreddies. And Diamond Shreddies has a pretty cool story because during a marketing meeting to brainstorm ideas at Post, an intern picked up one of the Shreddies because they had a bunch of stuff out on the table. And he just picked up one of the Shreddies pieces of cereal and he turned it 45 degrees. He turned that square piece of Shreddies cereal 45 degrees. And then he jokingly said, "It isn't a square, it's a diamond." And with that one simple joke, the genius marketing campaign for Diamond Shreddies was born. And during the campaign, customers could choose between buying a normal square-shaped version of Shreddies in the box, or they could buy the new Diamond Shreddies. And of course, both products were exactly the same, and with the difference just being the product packaging. And to add to the humor, Post also released a combo pack that contained both versions of the cereal. And the billboard advertisements and the television commercials and the online ads that ran in Canada and New Zealand and the UK where Shreddies are normally sold, they advertised these Diamond Shreddies and showed them next to normal Shreddies, and it was a big, ha-ha, and it got a lot of attention, and it was interesting. And the campaign just simply worked, and it created the desire for people to have something they didn't even know that they wanted, which is goal number 3. Show them what they didn't even know they wanted. So people didn't realize that they wanted a diamond version, a quote unquote diamond version of the Shreddies cereal. And check this out. When Shreddies ran this campaign, it increased sales by 18%, which meant millions of extra dollars in sales for Post. So your possible goal number 3, as you can see here, it's pretty straightforward. Maybe there is a way that through your marketing and through your product packaging to show your dream customers what they didn't even know that they wanted. Because in this case study for Shreddies, people didn't even know that they wanted diamond Shreddies until it was shown to them. Okay, so possible goal for your product packaging number 4 is to design your product packaging so that it adds more to the customer experience. So my favorite example of product packaging that adds to the customer experience is the classic Coke glass bottle. And with the classic Coke bottle, we have an added customer experience. First, by the way it looks, because the glass bottle design just looks cooler overall and more intriguing than other everyday glass soda bottles. And next, we have the way it feels, because I read once that the goal of this iconic glass bottle for Coca-Cola was to make it so that if you had the glass bottle in a cooler full of ice and someone was reaching inside the cooler in the dark, so it's hard for them to see for some reason, that okay, they couldn't see what they were reaching for, but inside of the cooler, but they could recognize, the goal was so that they could recognize that they had grabbed a glass Coke bottle instead of any other soda bottle, because they would recognize the way that the unique Coca-Cola bottle felt. So the entire feel of the unique glass bottle is a big part of the experience for these iconic glass bottles. And then there's the third way that these glass bottles added to the customer experience. It's because of the fact that an ice cold glass bottle actually affects the way your Coke tastes. Meaning, if you drink a Coke today, a normal everyday Coke, that has the same formula as all other Cokes, but if you drink your Coke first from a styrofoam cup, for example, and then you drink some Coke from an ice cold glass Coke bottle, then for most all people, the Coke coming from the ice cold glass bottle will taste much better than the Coke coming from the styrofoam cup, because that ice cold glass bottle touched to your lips, it actually alters the way your Coke will taste, and it alters it for the better in a big way. And now, continuing with the previous example of the Coke bottle, now we have a slightly different packaging example from Coke, with the possible goal for your product packaging number 5, where you want to make your dream customers feel something. Number 5 goal is to make them feel something. And Coke was able to do this with their famous Share a Coke campaign that worked so well for them that lots of people remember. And they felt special when they were able to find a Coke bottle with the Share a Coke campaign that had their name written on it. And they felt special when buying bottles also for others with their names on it and giving it to them as gifts. And the campaign was a huge hit, and it increased sales from younger consumers and from adults at the time by 7%, which for Coke meant a massive boost in overall revenue. So 7% sounds small, but 7% for Coke is massive. It's just massive. So Coke's Share a Coke campaign was proof that when you can get people to feel the right way through the smart design of your product packaging, then it can give you big chances of seeing a sales boost. So based off of this example, how can your product packaging also get people to start feeling more positive emotions towards the possible purchase of your product or service? All right. Possible goal for your product packaging number 6 is to captivate their attention. And for this possible goal, I wanted to take a moment and talk about John Taffer. So John Taffer, if you haven't heard of him, he's pretty much like the Gordon Ramsay, but for the bar and nightclub industry. And so very much like Jordan Ramsay, yelling at people, no BS approach. No, it's got to be like this. And he goes in and he has successfully, with hundreds of bars and restaurants for nearly 40 years, helped tons of people succeed. And he became the host because of his success and his personality. He became the host of the hit reality show Bar Rescue. And he has one of my favorite quotes of all time about captivating customer attention. Here is what he said. He said in an interview, I believe it was with Entrepreneur Magazine, he said, the biggest mistake that people make is they think I'm in the food business or the beverage business. I'm not. I'm in the reaction business. You see, a plate of food hits the table. It lands right in front of you. One of two things happens. Either you sit up and look at it and react to it, or nothing happens. If nothing happens, that restaurant is stuck in mediocrity forever. The product is the reaction. And that's where restaurateurs blow it. You see, I'll put that plate in front of you, and if you don't sit up, I'll redesign it 100 times until you do. Because I understand that it's not the plate of food. It's the way you react to it that makes the money. So, inside John Taffer's restaurants and the restaurants that he's helped, his first moments of truth basically all come down to the following example. Check out this side-by-side example. All right. So these images are actually from the Netflix comedy show called Nailed It. And in this case, the contestant was tasked with creating a princess cake. And they were given the princess cake, the one that you see, the nice one in this image. They were given that example of a princess cake, and they were supposed to try to take all their ingredients and recreate their own version of that princess cake. So this princess cake, the nice one, hits John Taffer's goal of getting people to sit up and take notice immediately. It looks incredible. It looks beautiful. And if you knew that it was actually a cake, you would think, well, that actually looks pretty good. That is interesting. I am interested in seeing how that tastes as well. So, it gets people to take notice immediately. It looks tasty, everything. It does things for the right reasons. But the side-by-side version from this show, Nailed It, where somebody went to recreate it, not so much. Because this other version that the contestant tried to create, it gets attention, actually. It gets attention, but for the wrong reasons, right? You see, this contestant's cake, and this is a comedy show, so it's all in good humor, but it does not get me to sit up at all. It looks like Play-Doh. It's not something I would even consider thinking about trying to eat, because it's pretty much the creepiest looking, most, I don't know, not well put together princess looking type cake that I've ever seen. And it doesn't even look like cake. So there you go. Possible goal number 6 is to captivate their attention, but doing so in the right way, captivate their attention. And if you follow John Taffer's advice of designing your product packaging so that people sit up and immediately take notice for the right reasons, then you'll be right on track to captivating people's attention. Okay. Possible goal for your product packaging number 7 is to innovate your product packaging through back and forth tests with your customers. And to discuss this possible goal, I wanted you to take a quick look at this toilet paper that we have here. This brand is called Neve, and it's produced, so Neve, and it's produced by the Kimberly-Clark company for the Brazilian market. So Neve is a Brazilian brand of toilet paper, and there's something very innovative about this packaging. At first glance, you probably don't see it, but the difference from everyday toilet paper and this toilet paper is that there is not, if you look close in the image, a normal round hole in the middle of each of the rolls inside of the packaging. Instead, you're seeing more of a smashed circle shape and with the packaging. And if you actually held this packaging in your hand, which I actually have done, you'll notice that each roll is smashed and it's in like more of an oval shape. And this type of packaging is done on purpose in Brazil, and it helped Kimberly-Clark differentiate their toilet paper and explode their sales, because what they found with their tests back and forth with their customers is that their customers in Brazil actually want smaller packaging that delivers the same amount of toilet paper. And the Brazilian customers want this mainly because Brazilian homes are smaller and spacing is limited. So people appreciate toilet paper packaging that takes up less space under their counters or under their sinks. And by changing the packaging process to smash each roll of toilet paper, they end up saving people a lot of space, and they end up lowering the company's overall costs, and it's overall better for the environment because the average amount of packaging used was reduced by 13% when Neve launched this version of the toilet paper. And according to Kimberly-Clark, this change in packaging started saving them and the environment the equivalent of 1.8 million plastic water bottles of plastic worth of plastic per year. So it was a win for the environment, and a win for the consumer, and it was a win for the company. So everyone was happy, and all because they tested back and forth with consumers to see if they liked this type of smaller packaging. And it just so happens that, yes, the Brazilian customers love it, and they don't mind the slight inconvenience of needing to take a smashed toilet paper roll and just quickly popping it and reshaping it so that the hole goes back to a more circle shape. So when they go to replace their toilet paper rolls, that it fits into the normal toilet paper contraption like it's supposed to. They just take an extra second, pop it in, easy peasy. So possible goal number 7 with your product packaging is to learn from this example from Kimberly-Clark and innovate through tests with your customers to see how they like and how they engage with different versions of your product packaging. Okay, possible goal number 8 is to use your product packaging to share your USPs, also known as your unique selling propositions, along with sharing also the features and benefits of your product. And one of my favorite classic examples of this is the first product packaging when McDonald's launched the Big Mac for all of their restaurants. Because at first, the Big Mac was only sold in one restaurant by a rogue franchise owner who technically was breaking the franchise rules. And he started selling different versions of the Big Mac on his own because many of his customers were men who worked in the steel mills and who weren't satisfied by the smaller burgers that he sold on the menu. And that rogue franchise owner was so convinced that sales would explode with a bigger burger that he started experimenting with big burger concepts without McDonald's approval. And eventually McDonald's gave in and let him officially start selling what he ultimately came up with, which is the Big Mac. And they agreed that he could officially start selling his Big Mac as a test to see how it would do officially. And it was such a smash hit, immediate hit, that it went on to become the second best-selling food item on McDonald's menu. And today, it's estimated that 550 million Big Macs are sold every year. But I wanted to show you this original packaging because it's clearly representing the unique selling proposition, the features, and the benefits all at the same time of the Big Mac with that simple yellow and red box. So here you have a simple but very large box, large red box. It's got the logo on it. It's got the 6 simple letters that spell Big Mac, BIGMAC. And you immediately know that through this big red box what kind of sandwich you are getting your hands on. So it's a great example of using your product packaging to share your USPs, features, and benefits. And I've got a special treat to share with you. One of the first Big Mac commercials. So here we are. When watching this commercial, this one actually includes the iconic Big Mac jingle, if you've heard of that, if you've heard that jingle before. But I want you to think about the first moment of truth while watching this commercial. So try to imagine, if you will, that this is your first ever encounter with the Big Mac. So you've never heard of that before, and this is your first time. First moment of truth. Imagine it's your first time learning about the Big Macs, and then look at how they put together this ad and featured the product along with the product packaging for an amazing FMOT. All right, here we go.
McDonald's Big Mac. It's more than just another hamburger. There are 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, and onions on a sesame seed bun. 7 great ingredients working together to make one great taste. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, cheese, lettuce, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Get the idea?
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
It's your McDonald's Big Mac. You've got to taste it to believe it, you know what I mean?
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
2 all-beef patties.
Let me say a few words about McDonald's Big Mac. It's
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
2 whole... Well, what was that word again?
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
Lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, lettuce, cheese, pickles, oh, what am I saying?
You deserve a break today at McDonald's,
Where your dollar gets a break every day.
All right, simply amazing, right? I actually know of some baby boomers who, I guess it was the thing at the time where they would memorize that jingle and show off to others that they knew how to say the whole thing, because it's kind of a tongue twister, right? I can't do it. But there's baby boomers that still today, they know that jingle, and they, off the top of their head, they can spit it right out. And so this is an amazing example, and you can see through that ad how McDonald's created an amazing first moment of truth. And here in this picture, you can see some better close-ups of that original Big Mac product packaging from when the Big Mac was first launched in 1968. So with that commercial and the close-up shots of this product packaging, it's even easier to see how you can create amazing FMOTs right inside your advertisements that get people to want to buy within the first 3 to 7 seconds of interaction with your product. And with the Big Mac box, you see how McDonald's did an amazing job at showing the USPs, the features, and the benefits through their simple but effective product packaging, and their overall just amazingly simple packaging design. And now let's talk about your possible goal number 9, which is a simple one, but can't overlook it because very important for the right products and companies and services. That is for you to use your product packaging in some way to provide instructions on how to use the product. And for the right products, for certain products, this is a must. So for example, with this Betty Crocker cake mix box, that you know what a Betty Crocker cake mix box looks like from the front. So I'm just showing you the back. As you can see here, we have instructions on the back. And a normal thing to do for all shoppers is to grab the box. Okay, this is what I'm interested in, and flip it over. This is online as well. You want to kind of see what the front of the package is, the back of the package is, and why. Why? So just imagine for a moment if for some reason you didn't find these instructions on the box. Betty Crocker would naturally sell much less cake mix if there were no instructions. Because if the instructions were, for example, only found on the inside of the box, in that case, people would pick up the box during the first moment of truth and not feel as confident in their abilities to use the mix to make the cake, because they wouldn't see instructions and they wouldn't know what additional things they need in order to make the cake. They just don't know what's needed, right? So it's an extremely important sales element for Betty Crocker and other similar products. And it's nearly essential for the customer experience to include these instructions on the box, because the only way they could really get away with not providing the instructions on the box is if they had everyone scan a QR code or visit a website for the instructions, if those people wanted to see the instructions before buying it. But that would cause a lot of people to take an extra step that they don't necessarily want to take because they want to quickly during the F1. Remember, it's 3 to 7 seconds, right? So you don't have time during that 3 to 7 seconds to convince people that they need to pull out their phone and scan a code so that they can go and look up the instructions and see if it's easy for them to make. So it could hurt overall sales in a big way if for certain products or services you did not have these instructions on the box. So consider if this is important or not for you to have instructions as part of the outside of your packaging, and think about how people might possibly engage with your packaging during the first moment of truth with or without those instructions. All right. And for possible goal number 10, you have the goal of assisting in the ease of use of the product. And I've provided a very simple to understand example here, because this product packaging innovation of creating these squeeze pouches for kids' applesauce has helped sell a lot more applesauce to parents who are looking for a simple way to give their kids applesauce as a snack. So it's this type of product innovation that can completely just transform the way your product is sold and or consumed. And for the applesauce industry, this type of packaging was an absolute game changer. A lot more applesauce is purchased and consumed today thanks to this type of packaging. So, is there a type of product packaging innovation that you should be including that helps your dream customers to more easily use your product? If yes, then it could easily be the change that boosts your sales in a big way as well. So think about that. Number 10, assist in the ease of use of the product. Goal number 11 for your product packaging is to identify what the product is. And when, now this sounds logical, but people mess this up, okay? Because when doing lots of research about product packaging, I learned from multiple designers a really fun fact about food packaging. Food packaging specifically. That is, that food packaging that includes images of food generally sell a lot better than food packaging that doesn't show the images of the food. So a fun example of this, a real life example that I found, is a case study from Dave's Sweet Tooth Toffee. Okay, Dave's Sweet Tooth Toffee. And in the case study, it was revealed that this product packaging change, their before and after, it absolutely just exploded their sales. So as you can see in this example, in the first packaging, the before packaging for Dave's Sweet Tooth Toffee, it did not show images of the toffee itself on the packaging. Now, the packaging wasn't bad. The packaging looked nice. It was nicely designed. It looked clean. It still generated some desire, but people, the people that bought initially through this first product packaging, they actually didn't know exactly what the toffee looked like. They just kind of bought it off of faith that there actually was some tasty looking toffee on the inside of the package. But the current packaging fixes that in a big way. As you can see with the current packaging design, that's now crushing sales for Dave's Sweet Tooth Toffee. It has a lot of images of the toffee, along with other food images to help enhance the sale of the food. For example, you see a slice of pumpkin pie next to the pieces of pumpkin spice toffee on the pumpkin spice flavor of the Dave's Sweet Tooth Toffee packaging. So that addition of the piece of pie, of the pumpkin spice pie, at least for me, really gets me to start thinking about how that toffee is going to taste. And it makes me hungry, and it makes me want to try the toffee right now. I'm now, once again, looking at this image again and want to try that toffee. So this case study is an important example of how much better your product packaging might do at increasing sales when your product packaging includes images or information that helps to clearly define what is found on the inside of the packaging, okay? Because if you just sit there, and you should be doing this for your product packaging, if you just look at this new product packaging for Dave's Sweet Tooth Toffee and start to analyze the images, if you like toffee or chocolate in any way, shape, or form, then you already start to imagine how this product is going to taste, and you have a much bigger desire to buy. But if you try to do the same thing for the before packaging, it just doesn't work, because you basically just have word descriptions of what's inside the packaging. All right. So with your packaging, you can take your current packaging as well, and you can say, and you can visualize, and you can look at it, and you can say, what is this packaging helping go through my head? Is it helping me to already start to see myself using the product or service that's inside of the package, or not? What is being conveyed? What kind of emotions, what kind of senses is it evoking or not? All right. Possible goal number 12 is for your product packaging to include your brand or your brands in some way, shape, or form on the packaging. So branding purposes. Now, this could be done for brand recognition, for trust, or for a number of different reasons. And for this example, I'm actually, as you can see here, I wanted to provide you with a negative example so you can understand through this negative example of Colgate beef lasagna, frozen beef lasagna from the company Colgate. This negative example will help you better understand how important your brand is and why you should take your brand position, why you shouldn't take your brand positioning for granted, because it can confuse your audience in a big way. So what you see here, this packaging, this image is from 1982. And in 1982, the executives at Colgate messed up. And so how did they mess up? Well, they saw an opportunity, which, looking for opportunities is great, right? So they saw an opportunity to profit, which is great, from the growing market of frozen meals, which is great. So all that is great. Let's profit from the growing market of frozen meals. So the idea was great, but the strategy was severely flawed because Colgate didn't create a new brand for the launch into a completely different market. Now, Colgate, they had the money, they had the power, they had everything that they needed. All they needed to do was create a new brand. It could have been anything. But they decided to instead put the Colgate logo, big red and white toothpaste Colgate logo, displayed on the front of each of these frozen food boxes. And Colgate not only lost millions of dollars after pulling the products from the shelves, but they also, because they messed with their brand, their Colgate brand specifically, they saw a significant decrease in their toothpaste sales because they caused brand confusion. So big lesson here. First of all, don't cause brand confusion. Colgate did so. And because they did so, I mean, really, let's think about this. Why would people want to buy frozen lasagna from a toothpaste company? They would not. People do not want to buy frozen lasagna from a toothpaste company. They want to buy it from a food company, right? So Colgate, they recognized their mistake. They refocused their marketing messages on their best products. They launched new winning products with new brand names, and they acquired additional companies while creating new brand names. So it was okay for Colgate to have a bunch of brands under their umbrella company, but it needed different names, right? And those investments, that learning from the mistake, in the following years, it quickly helped them to recapture their lost market share and grow their business and profits even more. And they eventually, people forgot about the mistake, and the toothpaste sales came back, of course. And Colgate now consistently generates over $15 billion per year in sales. And they use their Colgate branded logo today only for their dental products, like they should. And then they have other brands that help contribute to that $15 billion per year in sales that don't have the Colgate logo splashed all across the packaging, because that doesn't work, right? So that's a little fun story there. And it's a bonus story that should really get you thinking about the power and purpose of your brand. And it helps you to understand just how important it probably will be for your product packaging to include the right brand logos. And your brand or brands presented the right way in the right context as part of your product packaging and your packaging design can greatly enhance the first moment of truth. And it can either help your products to get noticed, or to increase your sales, or to increase your trust, etc. It can do a lot of things when done the right way. And it, of course, with this negative example, can hurt you when done the wrong way. All right. Possible goal number 13 is to turn your product into a gift or present by way of the product packaging. Okay, so turn the product into a gift or present. And I had to use See's candies as this example because I used to always buy my mother See's candies as a gift. And I did it the first time ever 23 years ago, back in the year 2000, when I first went to college. And on multiple occasions since then, I have bought her See's candies as a birthday gift or a Mother's Day gift or as part of a Christmas gift. And the reason why I would do so with such frequency is because, first of all, my mom absolutely loves See's candies. She loves it when I buy them for her. So she really, really likes See's candies. I do as well. Delicious. Number two, it makes it so easy for me, right? Because it already comes all prepackaged, like a beautiful gift. It in it in and of itself is a present or a gift. So I don't know how much less See's Candies would sell if they didn't package up so many of their chocolates like gifts, but I know that it would be significantly less. So this is something that you might want to consider as one of your goals, because using your product packaging to package up what you sell as a gift or a present is a proven way to increase sales in multiple industries. Okay, possible goal number 14 for your product packaging is to simply protect the product. And a great example of this is this printer paper that we see here, and printer paper in general, because I've noticed that whenever I go to buy printer paper, it is very well packaged together inside of a special type of plastic that is a bit harder than normal plastic to unwrap. I tried to like use my fingers, and anyway, the plastic seems to be a bit more sturdy and thick than normal, and I usually need to go ahead and grab a knife or scissors in order to successfully open the package without getting too frustrated, because it's very well packaged together. And the reason why it's so well packaged together is pretty simple. Printer paper is packaged in a way to protect the inside of the paper, the inside paper, from getting wet or from getting dirty. And here's a fun side note in the image you see here. This is paper from a company in the Netherlands, and their packaging, as you can see, stands out in a big way compared to normal printer paper packaging, right? So the black and white images of the faces on these packages are very artistic, and they stand out in a big way. And this type of strategy of standing out during the FMOT has worked really well, because this paper company, just like the black fisherman rubber boots example that I showed you previously, this company also won a Platinum Pint Award for their amazing attention-grabbing packaging. All right. So as you can see through this great example, your product packaging can be a great way to get people to stop and pay attention to almost any commodity. But the main point here, of course, with this example that I wanted to make is that one of the considerations for your packaging, one of the possible goals, is that you might need for your product packaging to be created in a way so that it specifically helps protect what's on the inside of whatever you are selling or providing to the consumer. All right, possible goal number 15 is for you to design your product packaging in a way that helps you to store the product. And I have a really cool example here, because another story, fun story. Did you know that Pepsi was the first to start selling soda in 2-liter bottles? That's right. In 1970, they became the first in an attempt to win market share from Coca-Cola. So they launched the biggest bottles in the market, and they sold their soda for less than Coca-Cola. So you got more and it cost less than Coca-Cola. And because people got so much more for their money inside of these 2-liter bottles, it did help Pepsi to start eating up market share. But of course, with all that soda, you needed packaging that helps to store a lot of soda. So what you see here are the first 2-liter Pepsi bottles that were used. And these first glass 2-liter bottles are very close, pretty close, right, to the same shape we have today that we're used to today. The difference today, of course, is that the bottles we use are not glass 2-liter bottles. They are plastic 2-liter bottles. And once again, it was Pepsi that launched the first plastic 2-liter bottles, because Walmart, they wanted a bottle that didn't break inside of their stores and cause so much mess. So if you imagine, people going to Walmart and they're like, okay, I'm going to grab this 2-liter bottle of Pepsi. and then whoops, slips out of the hands, crash, makes a huge mess on aisle 13. So Pepsi started working with Walmart, and Walmart was like, we want to carry more of your 2-liter bottles, but we have a problem with them. They cause too much mess when they explode and shatter all over the ground. So Pepsi created the world's first plastic 2-liter bottle that did not explode if people accidentally dropped them. Instead, as you've probably noticed, if you have ever dropped a 2-liter bottle of plastic, 2-liter plastic bottle of soda, the plastic 2-liter bottles, they normally just bounce around when they hit the floor. And this is great. And Walmart absolutely loved this innovation. Sam Walton was very happy with this innovation, and they agreed to start selling more Pepsi in the 2-liter bottle format, which only ended up helping Pepsi eat up even more of the market share, all because Pepsi figured out a great way to sell and store more of their product through their packaging innovations. All right, for possible goal number 16, we have provide product information. And this immediately got me thinking about what I do whenever I think about buying the foods that I personally buy that help me hit my daily protein goals. And it got me thinking about the first time I ever saw RX bars on the shelf, because I actually remember that the first time I did see RX bars on the shelf, the first thing I did was I noticed the front, and then I immediately flipped to the back to read the nutritional facts. And if for some reason those nutritional facts would not have been there, I would have been very confused, first of all, because they are required by law for a lot of food products to put those nutritional facts on the box. But also, if it wouldn't have been there, then I wouldn't have bought RX bars that first time that I bought RX bars. So this is important to consider for your goals. And depending on what you are selling, you may even be required by law to provide certain information and disclaimers on your product packaging. So for me personally, I was intrigued. I was like, wow, this is amazing. That first moment of truth really got me, but I was intrigued to the point where I'm like, okay, but I care what the ingredients say, and I care what the rest of the nutritional facts say. So I was looking for that. And you have customers that are also looking for that type of information, that product information. And it can actually kill the sale if you don't provide enough of the right product information right on your packaging. So what you need to do with this tidbit of information is to do your research and consult your lawyers and provide the product information that your dream customers are already expecting, along with the product information that you are required by law to include on your product packaging. Okay, for 17, we have the possible goal of you providing information that helps to better promote or sell your product. And I have a cool case study here to share with you. As you can see here with the Country Archer brand of beef jerky, the new packaging, actually, instead of just saying beef jerky, instead, with the new packaging in big and bold and white on the black background, it actually says grass-fed beef jerky. Big and bold and white. Stands out. You can't miss it. So previously, it just said beef jerky, big and bold and white. And this says grass-fed beef jerky, big and bold and white. So the interesting thing here is that Country Archer always sold and advertised their beef jerky as grass-fed beef jerky, but it wasn't initially, as you can see with the previous packaging, it wasn't initially prominently displayed on the packaging that it was grass-fed beef jerky. It's there on the package, but it's much smaller font, much smaller benefit. But by working with a new product packaging company, they discovered that for their dream customers, the fact that their beef is grass-fed is an absolutely massive X factor benefit that helps Country Archer drive sales in a big way. So with that bit of information, with the new product packaging, they more prominently displayed that big bolded grass-fed benefit, grass-fed beef jerky instead of just beef jerky. And the result of this product packaging change, highlighting this benefit on the package to better sell the beef jerky as grass-fed as a benefit, that resulted in an incredible 28% increase in sales for the company. 28%. Now, that's a huge boost in sales and profit for a beef jerky company that had, for many years, already been well established and known in the market. So, boom, 28% jump. They were already established. So this shows all of us just how sometimes by highlighting just one key point or benefit that jumps out at your prospects, that alone can help make all the difference during the first moment of truth. All right, for possible goal number 18, I've got a pretty cool example because this guy here is an Amazon seller, and he shot a video on YouTube talking about the sales success of his shoe cleaning kit that he calls Factory Laced. And this box you see here for Factory Laced, it's his ultimate shoe cleaning kit. Okay, his ultimate shoe cleaning kit, and it sells for $44.99 on Amazon, and it's been a great success for him. It's got over 1,300 reviews with an average rating of 4.6 stars. In other words, this guy is selling a lot of shoe cleaning kits. He's got a winner. So, in his video that I saw where he was talking about product packaging, his own product packaging on YouTube, he revealed that one of the big reasons for his success is obviously that he's got some pretty great looking product packaging. But he also revealed something that really caught my attention. He said specifically in his video that he decreased his box returns from 5% down to 1% because of one simple change. He started to shrink wrap his factory laced shoe cleaning kits with plastic. And he started to shrink wrap the kits because out of those 5% of buyers who were previously returning the kits, the reason they did so was because they thought they received a box that had already been opened. Now, of course, he had been sending everyone, all of his customers, brand new boxes of the factory laced ultimate shoe cleaning kits. So it was just a problem with perception. Because it wasn't shrink wrapped, people thought it was an already open box, right? So to fix that perception, he started shrink wrapping all of his factory laced shoe cleaning kits in plastic, and that brought his return rates down from 5% to 1%. That increased his profits, and it increased his overall customer satisfaction. Amazing, amazing story, amazing case study. So this great story that I uncovered through all this research for you teaches us that sometimes one of your most important goals for your product packaging is simply to make sure that the product you are delivering looks new and unopened. All right, for possible goal number 19, we have safety. And this one comes with an amazing story as well. So in September of 1982, someone tampered with several bottles of extra strength Tylenol by lacing the capsules with potassium cyanide. And 7 individuals from Chicago died from the poisoning, and no suspect was ever caught and charged for their crime. Now, it would have been impossible for Tylenol to predict this extremely sad crisis, but Tylenol being amazing, they handled things the best way they possibly could, because they knew that, first of all, that they needed to do the tough thing to stay in business. They needed to keep the trust of the public and go ahead and recall 31 million bottles of Tylenol product, a move that cost Tylenol $100 million in losses. And they immediately then went to work to create new tamper-proof bottles. They invented the tamper-proof bottles, relaunched, re-put out Tylenol on the market. And within a year, sales of Tylenol were back to normal. And this was all due to their innovation with their new tamper-proof bottles. The same type of tamper-proof bottles that you know and love and trust today. Okay, Tylenol invented them. We have Tylenol to thank. Tylenol made the entire industry safer and better for everyone. So that's an incredible example, and it helps all of us to remember that sometimes product safety will be at the very top of our lists for our product packaging goals. All right. Now we've reached possible goal number 20, and we have 23 total possible goals. So we're on the last 4 possible goals for your product packaging here. And for possible goal number 20, you have shelf visibility. And the easiest way to share this goal with you is through a negative example. Don't get confused by this example. This one's a negative one, okay? Negative example from Tropicana. So here's the quick story. So Tropicana had been known for their iconic logo of an orange with a red and a white striped straw stuck inside the top of the orange for decades, okay? You probably have this same image in your mind. You've seen this image. Okay, yes, the orange with the straw, red and white straw, that is Tropicana. But in 2009, the company attempted a change to their product packaging that customers did not like. And instead of standing out, their new product packaging that you can see here, the after image with that was their new failed product packaging, it blended in with all of the other brands. It just looked like everyday, just normal stuff. Even though, and it's easily overlooked, but even though they have a cute little top, you can see there they created a cute little orange top for where you unscrew the carton of orange juice. And why is that details so overlooked? Well, because you don't even make it to seeing that detail, because the rest of the product packaging is so normal looking, and it just basically blended in with all of the other brands. So as you can see here, with the side-by-side example, before and after, the new packaging was very mediocre, and the old packaging, if you look at it side by side, yes, your eyes are immediately drawn to the old packaging. So with the big fail with this flop, 30 days later, the company decided to return to their old packaging and their old design, because they saw an immediate sales drop of 20% with the new mediocre packaging that didn't stand out. And the failed rebranding attempt ended up costing the company over $50 million. Ouch. So there you go. When Tropicana, they took away their orange with that iconic red and white straw stuck into the orange. When they took that off of their packaging, sales plummeted. And the big reason is because their shelf visibility dropped in a very big way. And that's because, well, we all recognize the orange with the straw. It was iconic. It was part of the brand, right? It grabbed people's attention. It really pops, and it makes people remember the Tropicana brand in a big way. But if you look at their packaging and rebranding attempt that flopped, you can see that the shelf visibility on the product that dropped, the product that flopped, it just dropped off in a big way. It no longer stood out. Instead, it looked like a lot of the other cartons of generic orange juice. So the lesson here is that shelf visibility matters in a very big way, even if your brand has been around for decades. All right, for possible goal number 21, we have sustainability, which is a goal for your packaging that more and more consumers appreciate nowadays and are expecting, because as you know, we as humans are creating way more garbage than we need to be creating. And depending on your brand and your brand values, sustainability might be something that you'll heavily want to consider when creating your product packaging. So we have here a really cool example from a wine company called Paperboy Wine Co., which is a smaller boutique brand of wine. So if you haven't heard of them, it's because, yeah, they're still around, a smaller boutique brand. But in 2014, they made a really big splash when they showcased their new wine and their new packaging for their wine, amongst others in the industry. And they showed what was possible with a paper wine bottle. And this example opened so many people's eyes as to what was possible with sustainable packaging that it also won an award. It also won a Pent Award. So this is a very cool example of sustainability with really cool design that stands out. And it shows us that even with wine bottles, that so many people they expect it to just be a normal glass wine bottle, right? But even with wine bottles, even with industries that for decades they've been doing things the same way, you can break norms and you can stand out with sustainable product packaging. Through this example, we see that it is possible. So thank you, Paperboy Wine Co., for that cool example. And now we've got possible goal number 20, and that is storytelling. And of course, storytelling, when done right, we've talked about the benefits of the storytelling. We talked about it in the Attention Grabbers Masterclass, the Customer Experience Masterclass. So all of this, it adds to customer experience in a big way, and it also helps us with our product packaging. And as an example, I wanted to read to you really quick the story I found on the side of the Liquid Death cans. And here's what it says, the story on the side of the Liquid Death cans. This is pretty cool. All right. Our proprietary thirst murdering process begins with Liquid Death forming a rope of veins that will wrap around your thirst's head and strangle it. Once Liquid Death reaches your thirst's brain, all of your thirst's memories will be replaced with repeating loops of its own head imploding, which is exactly what happens next by it causing your thirst's head to implode and its brain to squirt out of its ears. Once your thirst has been murdered, the soul of your thirst will begin to escape and float towards the ceiling. At this point, drink a second sip of Liquid Death to rip its soul back down and force it to begin gluing its own body parts back together so that it can crawl inside you and eventually grow into a fully formed thirst once again. So that's a pretty cool little side benefit to grabbing your cans of Liquid Death. There's actually a slightly different version on this can that I grabbed from 7-Eleven. So that's fun. But that's cool little story. It's got a lot of vivid details, and it's a small detail, but it adds to the Liquid Death brand and the brand experience for people that drink Liquid Death. And then under the can, as you can see here in the image, it says hashtag death to plastic, while revealing the good news that with the sale of each can, they donate a portion to help clean up plastic garbage from the oceans, because that's part of what Liquid Death is all about. They are trying to help clean up the plastic pollution inside of the oceans by helping to popularize drinking water from a can, because the truth is, aluminum cans are infinitely recyclable. They're more easily recycled. So the more you drink from aluminum cans and the more you recycle them, the more you are actually doing for the environment. It's basically the easiest thing for the recycle companies to recycle and reuse is the aluminum cans. All right. So very cool. And with Liquid Death's example, we see that with the right stories and the right messaging, you can pull people in even more during your first moment of truth while simultaneously creating enjoyable customer experiences. And for our last possible goal for your product packaging, we have the goal of sharing your values, mission, and or vision. And the coolest example I have of this is a partnership from the fundraiser Help for Heroes. So a partnership that Help for Heroes did in the UK side by side with the companies that sold eggs. And the final product packaging, as you can see here, is the Help for Heroes eggs for soldiers. Eggs for soldiers. With the packaging, it's got the iconic green military colors. And the way this promotion worked was that in the UK, 15 pence went to the Help for Heroes fund for each sale of 6 free-range eggs. And people loved the campaign and the product packaging so much that by the end of the promotion, it helped to raise 1.3 million pounds for the Help for Heroes charity, while also giving them tons of visibility. So if you do the math on that, it looks like they sold around 9 million 6-packs of these specially labeled eggs for soldiers. So 9 times 6, so they sold 45 million eggs that use this eggs for soldiers packaging and promotion in order to raise money for charity. Not bad, right? And the campaign also helped further spread the cause, the mission, the vision, and values for the Help for Heroes charity, and of course grew the brand recognition for Help for Heroes. Well, of course, it'll help generate additional donations from people down the road, also for Help for Heroes, because of the growing recognition for this charity. All right. So that completes your list of the 23 possible goals for your product packaging. Those are possible goals that can all help you in the first moment of truth, where a big part of the buying decision is made during that first 3 to 7 seconds, where a big part is made. And of course, there are other possibilities for your goals for your product packaging. Don't think that this is these 23 possibilities is everything that you could possibly do for your product packaging, but these 23 possibilities do cover what we believe to be the biggest and the most common goals. So here's your recap. We have delight, intrigue, show them what they didn't even know they wanted, add to the customer experience, make them feel something, captivate their attention, and captivate their attention, of course, like John Taffer teaches to do, with the goal of getting people to sit up and take notice every time he designs a new plate of food. We have innovate through back and forth tests with your customers, share your USPs, features, and benefits, provide instructions on how to use. If That makes sense for your product packaging. Assist in the ease of use of the product, if that makes sense for your goals. Identify what the product is. Branding purposes, and a quick reminder, this is a negative example here, so don't do what Colgate did, slapping your logo on frozen food just because you see an opportunity. Do the branding in the right way. 13, we have turn the product into a gift or present like C's Candy did. 14, we have protect. 15, help store the product. 16, provide product information. 17, help promote or sell the product. 18, make the product look new and unopened. 19, we have safety with Tylenol's amazing industry-changing innovation. 20, we have shelf visibility. Once again, just want to remind you, this one was a negative example, so Tropicana actually had to revert back to their original product packaging because they reduced their shelf visibility with their test that lost them $50 million. So make sure you get that shelf visibility down right as one of your possible goals. And then from Paperboy Winery, we have the sustainability example with their amazing paper wine bottles. We have number 22, storytelling as a possible goal. And number 23, possible goal, share your values, your mission, and or your vision. All right, so your next step now with these 23 possible goals for your product packaging is to brainstorm which of these 23 possible goals are the most important for your product packaging and pinpoint which ones you think will most help you to create an amazing first moment of truth so that you can see an overall boost in your sales conversions. And that concludes part 1 of your product packaging masterclass. And as promised, in part 2, I will share more examples of amazing product packaging that have been used in online advertisements, also offline advertisements, and on the shelves inside of the stores that have seen massive boosts in their conversion rates because of changes to their product packaging. And with that inspiration, you'll receive even more ideas so that you can also see a boost in your sales through your product packaging changes. And I'm super excited. You're going to love the examples that I'm going to share with you of product packaging in part 2. So I will see you there inside of part 2 of your product packaging masterclass. All right. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Marketing Podcast Party. Please share this episode with your friends, family, and business partners. Also, remember that the party continues with your free copy of the Ideas That Influence book and interactive box experience. I wrote the book and created the box experience to help you with even more wildly successful marketing ideas. Head on over to bigideasbox.com to grab your copy. You'll get your copy for free. You just pay shipping and handling. Once again, that's bigideasbox.com for your free plus shipping copy of Ideas That Influence. I'm Daniel Din. This is the Marketing Podcast Party, and I'll see you in the next episode.